Thank you guys for inviting me to speak today. And today I want to share a little bit about visions and dreams. And so I've got a couple of scriptures, Acts 2:18. Your sons and daughters will proclaim my message. Your young men will see visions, and your old men will have dreams. God said, I will pour out my spirit on all humanity. Then your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions. And in Joel, it says, your elderly will have revelatory dreams. Your young men will see prophetic visions. And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. And your sons and daughters will prophesy. And your old men will dream dreams. And your young men will see visions. And in Luke 22:10, now this isn't a vision or a dream, but the apostles were hanging out with Jesus. And they said to Jesus, hey, where do you want us to prepare it? They're talking about the Passover. And he said, when you enter into the city, a man carrying a jug of water will meet you. And follow him to the house that he enters and say to the owner of the house, the teacher asks, where is the guest room where I may eat the Passover with my disciples? And the reason I shared that is it wasn't a vision or dream, but it was Jesus giving a very specific instruction that might have sounded strange, but it was specific. He said to the disciples, go find the guy with a jug of water and then follow him. And then when he gets to a house, ask the owner of that house where we're supposed to have the supper. It's like, what? When I was little, I learned from our teacher. I went to a Catholic school, and Sister Pauline Carroll, she taught us that as a Christian, one of your jobs is to try to be Christ-like, to try to live your life like Jesus would, and knowing that you always fail because he's perfect and we're not. And knowing that it's okay because he died for your sins. So he's offered that for us. And so I kind of took it literally, first, second, third grade. And Jesus turned the other cheek. And so I thought when a bully would pick on me, I would turn the other cheek. And the problem is some of the other kids knew that what I was doing. And they would, kids can be mean, right? I don't know if anybody noticed that, right? Kids can be pretty cruel. And so literally the bullies would beat me up, and then I would apologize to them for getting my blood on their clothes. I mean, that was bad. I taught my kids don't do that. That was a bad plan. It was very bad. And the problem is with that, of course, is after years of that, the rumors got out, and the bullies from the other schools would come to our school and wait for me. After the bullies at my school were done beating me up, I crossed the street, the other kids would beat me up. It was horrible. And so I had a dream that one of the bullies took it too far. In the dream, he beat me up, and he punched me, and I fell, and my head hit this rock and killed me, and I died. And then I woke up from my dream, and I thought, I guess I'm going to heaven today. So I didn't tell my parents. I just hugged them and kissed them goodbye, and in the morning on the way to school, and I hugged my brother, and he was like, get away from me and my sister, because I thought for sure I'm dying, I'm going to heaven. I just thought you have a vision, so that's what's going to happen. It was sort of I didn't even know who Calvin was, but that was as a little boy, I just thought that was kind of the way God says it's going to happen. That's what it is. And so on my way to school, I was walking, and I felt almost clear as day, a voice saying, stop, look down, and there was a Coke bottle. And God told me to pick it up. And I was like, well, I don't know, it's kind of weird, but if I'm going to heaven, I better listen to what God says. So I pick up the Coke bottle and put it in my backpack, and I didn't think anything of it. And then we get to school and about to cross the street, and God says, stop, take out the Coke bottle. I'm like, well, why'd you tell me to pick it up? And he set it down next to that rock. I set it down and forgot all about it, and I'm talking to my friends, kind of thinking this is the last time I'm going to see them. And after school, sure enough, there's the kids, they're kind of fight, waiting, and the guy's there, and he starts beating me up just like in the dream. Like everything is like wham, wham, and I'm thinking I should just let him hit me, and then I go down, but instead of hitting my head on the rock, I land on the rock, and I look over, and there's that Coke bottle staring me in the face. And I thought, wait a minute. Why would God tell me to pick up the Coke bottle? Why would he tell me to put it there? I picked up that Coke bottle and smashed it on the rock, and I started screaming, and the guy was like, oh, he's crazy! The rumors got out that this guy was insane. And they left me alone. They stopped beating me up. And it was at that moment that I realized that visions and dreams it's not a predestination thing. God gave us free will, and the visions are a tool. It's another tool in your toolbox. And that God was giving me that vision and dream, and because I checked with him, he gave me direction, and it changed the outcome of my life. I really do believe that if I didn't listen to God, that I probably would have died that day. But because I listened to that crazy idea, pick up the Coke bottle and set it down, and then I took my free will and picked it up and smashed the bottle. I wasn't going to hurt the kid, but I was, and it was so cool because they left me alone after that. And it was kind of hard to make friends after that for a while. But I didn't get beat up anymore, so, it's like, so it worked out okay. After high school, I decided not to be a pacifist anymore. And I joined the Army Rangers and became a commando. And my job was to hunt down bad guys and jump out of airplanes and chase bad guys around the world. And one of the things I remember is we had these posters and these playing cards with high-res pictures of the bad guys, the terrorists. And you had to memorize the eyes because sometimes they would have plastic surgery. And the facial features would change, but the eyes were always the same. And so I remember we spent a lot of hours memorizing the eyes of these bad guys, and it's hard to forget. And I thought about that's interesting how you can change your outward appearance, but there's certain things that you just can't change, right? I had an injury, I broke my back, I was in the hospital, and God gave me this vision that I was going to build these robot suits to help paralyzed people walk, and I was like, God, maybe you forgot. They said I can't go to college. I had a learning disability. My GPA is 1.86. Like you're not going to college. And in the vision, I'm building robots and I'm doing electronics and programming and building stuff. I was like, that's like 13 years of college, and I can't even take the first class. So how's this going to work? And I remember it's kind of like Gideon in the wine press. The angel of the Lord came to him, and he said, you are going to be a great leader, and you're going to lead God's people. And to me, I thought God was showing me that there's millions of paralyzed people, and somehow I'm going to help them all get the gift of walking. I was like, literally, when I woke up from that vision, I was like, God, I think you got the wrong address, buddy, because I'm not your guy. And God made it very clear at that point that that is what made me perfectly qualified, because I didn't have any earthly qualifications. There's no way I could possibly take credit for this creation, this invention. And that's, we call it the life suit. And we've developed those now. And those are over 300 paralyzed people that are using them now every day instead of wheelchairs. And so that was something where we took the vision and took the science fiction vision and took the fiction out and just made it real. And it was based on a vision and using free will and stepping forward on faith. And we had developed the robot suits, and I could strap it on and I could walk around, but it hurt. In fact, the prototype actually cut me because it was the way it was designed. And I remember praying about it, and God said, you need a doctor. You need a doctor, somebody that understands anatomy, physiology, and ergonomics. You need a doctor to show you how to attach your robot to a person and not to do no harm, because that's their oath. They say do no harm, and they understand it. And so I made a list, and what I wanted was I wanted a doctor that was paralyzed so that he could understand stuff. And I wanted a doctor that was affiliated with the University of Washington and some doctor that was affiliated with the Veterans Hospital. And I made my list, and for about 2 years, I told everybody I met, hey, what do? You drive for pizza or whatever. And I'm working on this robot suit thing, and I'm looking, by the way, I'm looking for this doctor. And I want him at the UW or Veterans, and if he's paralyzed, it'd be awesome. And after about 2 years, I was talking to this guy who runs a pharmacy. He said, oh, you should talk to my friend Steve. And he got me on the phone a couple minutes later. The guy was paralyzed as a teenager. After being paralyzed, went through medical school and became a doctor. He works at the Veterans Hospital, the Spinal Cord Injury Unit, and he's a professor at the UW Medical School. So, I mean, it's not a jug of water, but it's very specific. I was praying for a very specific thing, and then he said, I might be your guy. And the next day he met me at the lab, and he joined the team in 2003, and I was with him on Thursday night. So, I mean, he's still been involved in helping us to develop this. And a couple of weeks ago, I had a vision about, I was at a college, and I was reviewing students' work and working with these robot suits and developing curriculum. And I remember waking up and thinking, man, I haven't been at the college for a while. What's that all about? And the phone rings. And it's a woman from Maryland. And she says, I'm with this college in Maryland, and we are wanting to put together a board to develop curriculum to teach people how to use the exoskeletons in healthcare. Would you be interested? And I was like, yes, because I'd never had a vision answered that quickly. I mean, because you get a vision or a dream, or someone speaks to you prophetically, you want to make sure you have a confirmation. Because I don't know if you've ever heard, but there's some Christians that are at some conference and someone walks up to you and says, I have a word for you. You're supposed to sell everything and move to China, and people make a mistake and do that because they didn't check with God. And so if you ever get a prophetic word or vision from somebody, especially someone you don't know, you definitely want to check with some man or woman of God that you do know, and you want to ask God, and you should specifically get a vision or a dream from God confirming that prophetic word before you act on it. because usually a prophetic word is a confirmation of something God's already told you. So that's important to know that. If you ever get a prophetic word that God is like way out in left field, just say, no, not for me, and just check with God. You know, if you ever feel like you should go forward, check with God. And so that's one of the things we started this 21 days of prayer, because I was excited. The vision happened, the phone rang, but I stepped forward. I have my plans, but I don't want to do my plans. I want God to give me directions. And also, we have a business where we sell food, and we were looking at trying to get food into a couple of grocery stores, about 100 grocery stores, and then we started this 21 days of prayer 10 days ago. And since then, we've had a guy in Arizona with 500 stores, another company has 25,000 stores. I met a guy last week that has 170 stores, and then yesterday a guy that has 35,000 stores. And they all want us to go in, and I had written down a goal that I want to have $100,000 income per month starting this December. And right now, because of the prayer, if all this stuff works out conservatively, it'll be more than that. And so, you know, we're just praying and leaning on. In fact, I wake up in the morning at 6 o'clock, and my wife says, "Honey, go to prayer. Get out of here," because I mean, it's working. You know, it's working. We got a lot of things that are happening. And I had this one other vision I just want to share with you. A couple years ago, I had a dream about it was like a trade show. You know, you've been to farmers markets, you've been to the home show, but the difference is the home show, I was walking around and they had not MiGs, but they had F-14 jets, and they had, you know, tanks and machine guns, and there was a guy selling grenades, and I thought, and when I woke up, I thought, do they have trade shows where you go and buy guns and stuff? And there was all these generals walking around, and it wasn't like a gun show, but it was a military defense contractor show. And so when I woke up, I thought, well, let's go on the internet. And sure enough, they had shows. And I'd been invited to speak at this conference in Dearborn, Michigan. But the day before, I tried to buy my plane tickets, and the internet site kicked me off. The second time I tried, my credit card declined, but there was money in the account. And I finally just gave up on it. Well, then I looked at this show was happening. I was speaking for 2 days, and then the show started the next day in Dearborn, Michigan, right next to where I was already at. So I was like, oh, well, I'll just extend my stay a couple days. And then I checked in the tickets. To get a ticket to just show up, not a vendor, just to be, you know, show up and look around, was $600. And I didn't have the money. And I was like, well, I'll extend my stay, but I didn't have a ticket for the show. And I just felt like God wanted me to do it. And so I finished speaking, and I took my last $15, and the taxi dropped me in Dearborn, Michigan. I didn't even have money for a hotel. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I managed to move some money from one debit card to another and had enough for one hotel stay. And I remember getting into the hotel, and my card declined. I had to call my wife. She had to go deposit some money. And then I finally got my hotel reservation. And then I was like, okay, all right, I'm checked in. Now the conference is over there. Let me go check it out. And I went over there, and I'm thinking, what am I doing here? You know, there's a guard at the door looking for badges, you know, and if you don't have your $600 badge, you're not getting in. I could see all the generals, and I could see the guns and stuff inside, but I couldn't get in there. And I was looking around, and I was like, okay, I don't know. I'll go back to the hotel. I'm exhausted. So I went back to the hotel, and I took a nap, and I had a dream, and in the dream, I'd gone back to the lobby of the hotel, and there was 2 guys sitting in a chair, and in the vision, the guys invited me over, and I sat down, and they said, we're going to introduce you to the general. And then I woke up. I thought, well, that's kind of weird. You know, I had a little scruff growing, so I took a hot bath, I shaved, I put on my clean clothes, and I went back over to the hotel to check it out. And I walked around, and like in the dream, okay, the guys were sitting over here, but there's 3 guys in that chair. And then I'm like, okay, well, there's no 2 guys, but that's about where it was. There's 3 guys sitting there. I was like, well, you know, maybe it's just off a little. So I went and sat down, and there's these 3 guys talking, I'm talking, and one guy looks down at my chest and sees that I'm not wearing a badge, and he says, excuse me, who are you? What are you doing here? And I said, oh, I've developed these exoskeletons. He said, I'm out of here. He gets up and walks away. I'm like, okay, now there's 3 of us. This is just like the vision. So I move over a little bit, so I'm in the exact spot where I was in the dream. And I asked, one guy sells grenades from Germany, and the other guy's a machine gun ammunition guy, and he reps, he sells thousands of millions of rounds of ammunition for the government. And then I told him that I have these robotic suits for paralyzed soldiers so that they can keep working. They don't have to get out and become veterans. They can stay active duty. And they're like, they look at each other and says, we're going to introduce you to the general. I was like, my hair stands up on the back of my head. I'm sweating a little. It's like, the general. I'm like, oh, who's the general? You know, I was like, I had to stop from jumping up and doing cartwheels and stuff. And they tell me this general's in charge of research for the Army, and he's the guy that I need to meet. And he says, if you'll come back here at 5:15, he said, there's a break at 5:15. You come in this door right here, and I'll drag the general out here because you don't have a ticket. I'll bring you out here. And so I went back to the hotel, and then I put the robot suit away, disassembled it. So, and I didn't have very many tools. I had a pocket knife, because back then you could still take pocket knives with you on the plane. And so I'm putting the robot suit back together, and I'm like, I look at, there's only a quarter tank of fuel. So there's enough fuel to walk a quarter mile, and the hotel's a mile from my hotel. So I don't have enough fuel. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to put it on, and I walk, and then you shut it off, and you basically put the gear in neutral so you can walk, but you got this heavy, 100-pound suit that you're lugging around, and so I'm walking in this thing because I can't use the fuel. I got to save it to demonstrate to the general, right? And I'm walking across this parking lot. It's a mile shopping mall parking lot, and when I checked for the hotel, he said, oh yeah, we're right across the street from the conference. It's a mile, right across the parking lot. It's a mile away. And I'm walking, and this police car pulls up. And they flip their lights on, and they go, whoop, whoop, with the little siren thing, and he rolls down his window and says, hey, what are you doing? What is that? What are you doing? I said, oh, it's a robotic suit. It helps paralyzed people. I'm trying to get to that hotel over there. He says, well, this is a dangerous neighborhood. You should be careful. You might get mugged. And he rolls up his window and drives away. I was like, I thought the guy was going to help me. I was like, this is what it's like in Dearborn, Michigan. Be careful. You might get mugged. It's not giving me a gun or anything. It's just, be careful. And then I was like, okay, whatever. And I'm lugging this thing, and my back hurts because I have a back injury, and I'm trudging along, and then it starts raining, right? I'm like, cover up the electronics so it doesn't short out, and I'm like, oh no, I'm soaking wet, pouring down rain. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna go back to the hotel, forget it. It's 5 o'clock, there's no way I'm getting there in 15 minutes. And I thought, wait a minute. I had a dream. I bought the plane ticket. I spent my last pennies to get here. I'm here. The cops won't even help me. God, you're the only one. You got to help me. Please, God, bring me help. Bring me a truck. Bring me somebody in a truck, right? And in my mind, a pickup truck is a Ford F-150 extended cab. I didn't say that. I didn't think that, but I imagined bring me a truck. Within 5 minutes, a big red, raised up, extended cab, Ford F-150 red pickup truck comes up, and they stop, and the guy rolls down the window and says, hey, what are you doing? What is that? And the guy was like 19 years old, high and tight, muscles, like his arms were bigger than my legs, all muscle bound. There's 4 of them in the truck. And I said, it's a robot suit. It helps paralyzed people, and I need to get to the hotel. I'm like, oh. I said, can you help me? And he says, what do you need? He said, will you pick me up, put me in your truck, and take me over there? I'm like, sure. And these 4 guys just grab me and pick me up, put me in the back of the truck, and drive over there. It's still raining, And they pull into the entryway of the hotel, and it's this fancy Hilton hotel, and there's these limousines and these ladies in evening gowns and ties and tuxedos, and the truck pulls up, and everyone's looking over like, what's going on? There's this lady in the dress and the guy in the tuxedo, like, what is that truck doing here? And then the guys come out, and these big guys pick me up, and they set me down, and then I turn it on, fire it up, and it makes this noise when you walk. It goes because it runs on air, so everyone's looking, and I call the guy. I said, Hans, I'm here. It's like I got 4 more minutes to get inside. I said, I'm outside, I'm coming. He says, good, I'll meet you at the spot. And so I get inside, and he comes out, and he's got the general, and I meet the general, and he says, okay, you got 5 minutes. And I tell him what I'm doing. 25 minutes later, we're still talking, right? And he's giving me a phone number of a research general in the Department of the Army Research Division, and then Hans, after the general leaves, Hans says, you don't have a ticket, but just pretend that you belong here. Pretend you're a guest speaker and follow me. And so the 2 of them got on either side of me, walked in, the guard's yelling, hey. And he says, it's okay, right? You guys, wait, you can't go in there, but we're already deep inside. And he takes me around for the next 2 hours, introducing me to all these people in the research and development for the Department of the Army. And so it was just amazing to have a vision like that and have God answer that vision. And so I just want to encourage you that God is actively involved in your life. He's there for you, and I want to encourage you to live your faith, because the visions and dreams are real, God is real, prayer works, and I just want to encourage you to live your faith. Thank you.
Keep thriving, my friends.